At the gym, Coach Robinson introduces me to Daniel, a 20-year-old college dropout who's been following a similar path. Daniel is intense, maybe too intense. He talks about discipline like religion, judges others harshly for their weakness, and seems to have replaced one addiction with another. Coach Robinson pulls me aside after training. See that kid? That's the shadow side of this path. Discipline without compassion becomes tyranny. Musashi was a master swordsman, but he also became a master painter and poet. Balance within intensity, that's the real mastery. This lesson lands deep. I don't want to become hard and judgmental. I want to become strong and wise. I have a confrontation with my father, Richard, who's always been practical and risk-averse. He worked the same accounting job for 30 years and thinks I'm throwing my life away with this philosophical nonsense. We meet for coffee, my first social engagement in weeks, and he doesn't hold back. You're isolating yourself, burning bridges, and for what? Some dead samurai's book? You think discipline is going to pay your bills? I stay calm, breathing through his words. Then I share my results. I've been promoted at work because my output tripled. I've lost 20 pounds. I've saved more money in 40 days than in the last year, and I've never been more clear-headed. His face shifts. How? He asks, and I see his curiosity override his skepticism. Marcus shares a critical insight during a lunch conversation. Day 40 is when most people discover whether they're doing this for transformation or for ego. If you're doing it to prove something to others, you'll burn out. If you're doing it because you've glimpsed who you could become, you'll find a second wind. He tells me about his own Day 40 breakdown, where he almost quit, but then realized his discipline wasn't about punishing himself. It was about honoring himself. The Fire Book teaches you to fight, but the real battle is internal. Win that battle, and everything else becomes simple. His words reignite my commitment with a clearer purpose. I'm not running from my old life. I'm running toward my true life. Chapter 4. The Wind Book. Understanding Other Schools. Day 70 arrives with an unexpected clarity. Winter is at its peak. Dark mornings, freezing temperatures, and a world that's hibernating. But I'm more alive than I've ever been. My body is lean and strong, my mind is sharp, and I've developed a rhythm that feels unshakable. The loneliness has transformed into solitude, which I've learned to treasure. I'm no longer doing this to prove anything. I'm doing this because I've fallen in love with the process of becoming. The Wind Book teaches about understanding other schools, other ways, other philosophies, and I begin to see that my rigid approach, while necessary initially, needs sophistication. I reconnect with Sarah, who's surprised to hear from me. We meet for tea, and she's shocked by my transformation. You look different, not just physically. There's something calm about you. I apologize for disappearing and explain that I needed to walk away to walk forward. She shares that she's been struggling, feeling stuck, directionless. Instead of preaching, I simply share what's worked for me. I tell her it started with one decision, just one. I see a spark in her eyes. At work, I encounter a new colleague, Kenji, a first-generation Japanese-American whose grandfather studied traditional martial arts. When he sees the Book of 5 Rings on my desk, his face lights up. My grandfather lived by this book. We become fast friends, and he shares deeper context about Musashi's philosophy that I'd missed.
In Japan, we have a concept, shu-ha-ri. First, you follow the rules exactly. Then you break them thoughtfully. Then you transcend them completely. You're in the ha stage now. Time to adapt the principles to your unique path. This conversation shifts everything. I don't have to be Musashi. I have to find my own way using his wisdom. Coach Robinson organizes a meeting between me, Daniel, and two other people following similar paths. Linda, a 35-year-old single mother who's transforming her health, and Thomas, a recovering alcoholic who's using discipline as his recovery program. We share our journeys, our struggles, our breakthroughs. What strikes me is how different each person's path looks while still honoring the same principles. Linda can't train at 5 a.m. because of her kids, so she trains at 9 p.m. Thomas can't do cold exposure because of a heart condition, so he does breath work. The Wind Book's lesson becomes clear. Study all schools, but walk your own path. Jessica reveals she's applied to graduate school, something she had been too afraid to do for years. Watching you commit to something impossible made me realize I've been playing small, she tells me. This moment crystallizes why the path of discipline matters beyond personal gain. Our transformation gives others permission to transform. I'm not walking alone anymore. I'm walking first, leaving a trail others can follow if they choose. Marcus was right. People will think you're crazy until your results become undeniable. Then they'll ask you how you did it. Chapter 5. The Void Book, Emptiness and Mastery. Day 100 dawns cold and clear. I wake up at 5 a.m. without an alarm. My body knows. The cold shower is no longer a challenge, it's a meditation. I move through my morning routine with the efficiency of a monk who's performed the same ceremony for decades. As I sit in meditation, I reflect on the journey. I'm 30 pounds lighter, mentally sharper, financially healthier, and spiritually awake in a way I didn't know was possible. But the biggest change isn't measurable. I've found what Musashi called the void, a state of empty fullness where discipline becomes natural, where effort becomes effortless, where the path and the walker become one. I meet all my mentors and companions for a sunrise gathering at a nearby mountain overlook. Marcus, Coach Robinson, Jessica, Kenji, Sarah, Linda, Thomas, and even Daniel, who softened considerably, all show up. We don't say much. We watch the sunrise together, each person holding their own relationship with discipline, with transformation, with the void. Coach Robinson breaks the silence. Musashi's final lesson in the Void Book is that true mastery is knowing there's no finish line. This isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything. His words settle into my bones. Sarah pulls me aside after the gathering. She's started her own 30-day commitment, focused on her art, something she abandoned years ago for a practical career. I'm not trying to be like you. I'm trying to be like me, finally. Thank you for showing me it's possible. This moment reveals the deepest lesson of the winter arc. Transformation isn't selfish. It's the most generous thing we can do. Every person who becomes more themselves gives others permission to do the same. The void isn't empty, it's full of potential. At work, David, my skeptical manager, calls me into his office. I expect criticism, but instead, he asks me about my system. His marriage is struggling, his health is declining, and he sees the change in me. He says, "I mocked you, but you were right, and I was scared. Can you help me?" This is the moment Musashi described in the Void Book, when the student becomes the teacher, when mastery means serving others. I share my story, my principles, my failures, and my framework. I tell him it won't be easy, but it will be worth it. He starts day one the next morning. My father calls with unexpected news. He started morning walks and cut out alcohol, inspired by my transformation. He says, "I'm 60 years old. I thought I was too old to change, but watching you these past 100 days, I realized I've been too young to give up." This conversation breaks something open in me. I cry, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming recognition that our courage to change echoes through everyone we touch. Musashi walked alone through